Kenya is very integral to China because the BRI project is heavily invested and is heavily passing through Kenya with the standard gauge rail. But as well, Djibouti has the only military base of China on the African continent. Do you like being informed? And do you like staying ahead? Do this. Just subscribe to this YouTube channel and turn on the notifications bell. And definitely you'll be number uno to get notified whenever we drop a new video. President William Ruto arrived in Beijing for the upcoming FOCAC summit. What is FOCAC? FOCAC is a forum on China-Africa cooperation. Basically, China gets to sit down with African leaders to talk about what next for the African leaders in terms of modernization. And when we talk about modernization, there is a key component, that is the BRI project, the Bridge and Railways Initiative. That's not what I'm talking about today. I am talking about a notable figure that was on that plane. A man who branded himself as an African lion a couple of weeks ago at his unveiling of his AUC bid, the chairmanship. That is none other than Raila Odinga. This comes very timely, and you might ask yourself, Alan, does Raila Odinga know anything about and why does he need to be at the FOCAC summit? Now, he needs to be at the FOCAC summit because literally the whole of Africa is in China, Beijing to be specific. If the whole of Africa, or if part of Africa, or the biggest majority of Africa is in China, then you know why Raila Odinga also needs to be in China right about now. There are a number of head of states that are in China currently, and I am going to cluster them into regions and see who exactly is easy to convince to vote for Raila's AUC bid. Also, we've spoken about influence, yeah? The influence of the French, the influence of the Chinese, the influence of the Americans, and the influence of Europe, particularly the UK. Are they going to play any role in this AUC bid? That is what we're going to be talking about in this video. Now, I'm going to start with West Africa. Nigeria. Nigeria could be an easy win for Raila Odinga because he has a darling in a friend, that is Olusegun Obasanjo, that is former president of Nigeria. And depending on the relationship between Olusegun and the president of Nigeria currently, Bola Tinubu, definitely that might be a clear vote for Raila Odinga, and he might not need to do a lot of convincing. I think this would go for the same for Ghana's president Akufo-Addo, who is also in China. Nothing negotiating, no negotiating needed there. That would be too big. And another gentleman who is, or a president who is at the summit, that is Senegalese president Diomaye Faye. Now, this is his first visit to China. That is number one. Number two, he is a new president. Yeah, he hasn't shown which way is he going to. He's still unpredictable. So when it comes to his take or their stand as Senegal on who they are going to vote for in the AUC bid, still unclear. So this might need to be, this might be a place that Raila Odinga might need to work on to make sure that they get Senegal's vote. Next on the list from West Africa is Togo's president Faure. If West Africa decides to vote as a bloc, Faure might also vote for Raila Odinga. Ivory Coast, they are sending their vice president, that is Tiamoko Meiliet. I don't believe there would be any significance of resistance for voting for Raila Odinga. And in Mali, there is no specific leader that has been sent to represent the Malian people. But there is something that many panelists or many pundits and analysts have been talking about, the influence of the French in some parts of West Africa. Is it going to be significant? Keep around in the video because I'm going to be talking to you about that. Away from West Africa and now to Central Africa. Central Africa, there are countries like Equatorial Guinea. Equatorial Guinea, I don't think there will be any resistance. Democratic Republic of Congo, President Felix Tshisekedi. Now, there has been rocky relationships between East Africa, particularly Kenya, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Why am I saying this? Now, there was that withdrawment of the Kenyan army from Democratic Republic of Congo. That is number one. Number two, Tshisekedi thinks and feels that Rwanda is in one way or the other influencing what is happening in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Would they want to vote for somebody who comes from such a region that does not fully, seemingly or quote unquote, that does not fully support the Democratic Republic of Congo? I think he might choose to sit out of this one and say, okay, to hell with you guys, I'm gonna vote for Djibouti, because Djibouti, they give me a more, they would look more cooperative to me, and they would give me the support that I am looking for. And this would mean that if Tshisekedi is not sold, then that means that Raila Odinga needs to work a little bit harder on Felix Tshisekedi. Now, Central African Republic, that is President Faustin Archange. Central African Republic, it might not be easy to tell who they will be voting for, but convincing, with a little bit of convincing and sweet talk from Raila's entourage and the team that is supposed to be rooting for Raila Odinga, Central African Republic should not be a big deal. There is Gabon, president of transition, that is Oligui Nguema. All right, there isn't any bad blood between Kenya and Gabon or East Africa as a whole, but still there is that fear of French interference. There is a Cameroon president, Paul Biya. This one would be a good friend of Raila Odinga, and Congo's president, Denis Sassou Nguesso. Denis Nguesso, this is the president of Congo Brazzaville. All right. They share borders with the Democratic Republic of Congo. So how this might go? Will DRC influence how Congo Brazzaville votes? Raila Odinga still needs to do a little bit of more work. Now, we go to East Africa, away from Central African Republic, now to East Africa. East Africa is also heavily related or in relations with China. Why? Kenya, number one, Kenya is one of China's biggest business partners, and it ranks among top 4 in the amounts of loans that it has received from China. Number one. Number 2, Ethiopia. Ethiopia also plays around number 2 or number 3 in terms of loans that they have gotten from China. So they are they really need to be at this Africa-China summit. And another one is Djibouti. And Djibouti is an interesting party because China has its only military base in Djibouti on the African continent. So this is an interesting, it's going to be playing out in an interesting manner. Now, Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Ahmed Abiy, is expected to represent his country, and with the current relations between Kenya and Ethiopia, I think that Raila Odinga does not really need to do much on convincing Prime Minister Abiy. Now, no specific leader is going to be representing Djibouti, but it is expected that the president of Djibouti will be in China. Do Raila Odinga and his team really need to convince Djibouti on this one? I don't think so. And probably President of Djibouti will also be talking to other African heads of states on behalf of his candidate. Now, South Africa, of course, we know South Africa. There is the likes of South Africa itself. There is the likes of Botswana. There is the likes of Lesotho, and these have shown a little bit of dalliance and wanting to vote for Raila Odinga as well. Of course, with the President Cyril Ramaphosa, who is a personal friend. That is how it is branded to Raila Odinga. So that's how the turf is, and that is why it is important for Raila Odinga to be in China at this particular hour. Now, many analysts, going back to what I said that I was going to talk about, many analysts have spoken about the influence of France in the previous AUC elections and how it favored the current AUC chair, who is from Chad, Moussa Faki. The French interfered heavily and whipped Francophone countries to vote in a particular way. I do not want to entirely disagree with other analysts, but me, you, and them know that in recent year, particularly the past year, the influence of the French has been dwindling on the African continent. So I, as Alan Herbert, I personally don't think that the influence of French is going to be that much in this AUC elections come 2025, that is in February. Yes, I dare bet on that. If maybe it just happens, it wouldn't be as significant as it was in the recent elections, or in the lastly held elections. If France is not going to be heavily involved, then China might have an interest. But as I mentioned, China has a very interesting relationship with East Africa. Kenya is very integral to China because the BRI project is heavily invested and is heavily passing through Kenya with the standard gauge rail. But as well, Djibouti has the only military base of China on the African continent. So if I were China, I would sit out of this and behave as if I do not even know that the AUC elections are going to be happening in 2025, because you wouldn't want to find yourselves, as China, you wouldn't want to find yourself taking sides on your key partners. That is what I would basically say. So, have you been informed? Leave a comment for us. Do you feel like you are ahead? Also, leave a comment for us and let us see you in the next one.